Hey everybody, this is your host of the podcast, Tell Me Your Story, Chris Baker Jr. And today's special guest to tell his story is Michael, is it Michael Killik? Is that how you say it?
Yes, Michael Killick.
Michael Killik, and he's on here. He's going to tell his story from the beginning till, to the middle and to where he's up to this point. And like we're going to do what we always do. We're just going to jump into this and start from the very beginning. Where does life begin for you, Michael?
Good morning, and thanks for having me, Chris. This is awesome. Well, I'm a born Clevelander. I went through Catholic schools. I graduated St. Ignatius High School in 1984. From there, I tried college and wasn't quite ready for it yet. So I joined the military, the United States Air Force, and was stationed in. I put in for worldwide extended, and they sent me to Abilene, Texas, which for a city boy was like a whole new world. I remember the first bumper sticker I saw. It was "Welcome to Texas. Now go home." And I was like, oh shit, okay, this is a different gig down here. but down there, I fell in love with Tex-Mex and like real Mexican food and flavors. Not like the chichis or the Americanized Mexican that we had up here. So that's probably where my love of picante and hot sauce started, was down there, like in the the abuelas, the grandmothers would cook. And even like the roadside stands, those places that you don't see on Yelp these days, that we would stop at, that you find those flavors that were so fresh down there, that you can't reproduce in a chain. So from that, I had two beautiful daughters.
Hold on,
when I
wait. Before you go on, their food down there in Texas, everything is there's hot sauce and everything, right?
Right.
I've heard that. Like everything has hot sauce.
Right. But it's different. And again, this was back in '86, and so there weren't a ton of. It's not like the hot sauces we have today. Jesus Christ, there are fucking tens of thousands of hot sauces. Back in the day, basically, the mainstay was Tabasco. And there was only one Tabasco. I know, kids. You're like, I know. You're like, was there electricity back then? Yes, there was, motherfuckers. And but there wasn't. We didn't have all the choices we had now. This is before the hot sauce revolution, good or bad, if you look at it that way. We just had basically Tabasco was your only choice on things on the shelves. Let's put it like that. And there were probably some local things, but people made their own, especially in Texas. So I got to try some real hot sauce, or picante, as they'd call it down there, from these abuelas, the grandmothers, and it stuck with me, throughout the years. And so from there, I got out of the service. It was great. I learned a lot. I went to college at Cleveland State, got my elementary education degree, became a Cleveland teacher. I taught at Luis Munoz Marin Middle School. I taught sixth grade science for a bunch of years, became a science administrator for a while. Then I had a stroke, probably because I was a Cleveland teacher all those years. It left me with a hole in the base of my brain, the pons, as they call it, the pons of my brain. And I was in the hospital for a month. Basically, I had to learn how to take care of myself again, how to walk again. And my eyes still, if you look at me up close, my eyes still kind of rattle a little bit. Because so when I say I have a hole in my brain, I legitimately have a hole in my brain.
Kind of explain like what happened exactly. Were you just
Well, I was in the classroom, and all of a sudden my eyes start bouncing around in my head. Like if you ever ridden one of those old wooden roller coasters,
Oh yeah.
before they got smooth, it was like that. And
So
I closed my eyes, I shook it off. I tried to shake it off and I couldn't shake it off. And they came and got me in an ambulance. They took me to the hospital. They ran a bunch of tests. And it took them a couple of days to figure out what was wrong. Uh, and they found it was a quarter-size hole in the base of my brain.
wow.
And it's not a stroke in the strictest sense. It's some big long name that I refuse to memorize. But it was pretty hardcore to have a hole in your brain.
Well, how did it feel to you? Just once you found out this news, were you
Well,
rattled by it?
I mean, it was it was earth shattering. It was life changing because here I'd fought to become a teacher. I had taught for a bunch of years, and now I basically can't even take care of myself, And so I had to learn how to take care of myself again. And I was living by myself. The only person that came to help me out was my dad. He came, so after a month in the hospital, they sent me home. So my dad would come visit me once a week to make sure I had food. And so the first year was tough because I couldn't drive because my eyes were bouncing so hard. So when you meet me in person, if you see me, to focus sometimes, or a lot of the times, I have to tilt my head forward and look out of the top of my head. That's how I see clearly. It doesn't help that now I'm a 300-pound, heavily tattooed man who has to stare down at you to see clearly.
He's gonna eat me.
No, right. I have to. Right.
In my belly.
Right. I have to do a lot of explaining to people. Like, no, it's cool. I'm the nicest fucking guy. I just have a hole in my brain, So that took me about a year till I could drive again. I could get on my feet, That was a huge. But again, so I went from making. I jumped ahead. I had gotten my master's degree too while I was teaching. I have a master's plus 30. And all that was wiped away. I couldn't use any of that anymore. And I thought about going back to teaching, but I just didn't have it in me anymore. You know what I mean? That moment had passed. So what do you do when you have to, your whole life is reset, And I didn't know. And so my oldest daughter, who is 35, no, she's 35 now, but she was pregnant down in Florida and not a great situation. So anything that I had that wouldn't fit in my Dodge Charger, for fast forwarding, of course, I got rid of, and I drove down there and helped her out in a bad situation, got an apartment for us. And I got to be I got to be a professional grandfather for a year and a half.
Professional granddaddy.
Right. After having 4 daughters, my daughter had my grandson Bentley, and my daughter's Bridget. She's a fantastic chef down in Sarasota with her own food truck business, Killiks Kitchen. If you're hearing this, down in Sarasota, she makes great not Mexican. That's my gig. She makes a great Hawaiian-inspired food. And so Bentley was born. So I got to be a professional grandfather to Bentley for a year and a half. And it was wonderful. My oldest daughter, Bridget, is my best friend. She's the closest person to my personality. And so I got to be a stay-at-home grandpa and take care of Bentley for the first year and a half, 2 years of his life. And it was wonderful,
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. So as you were talking about, she has a food truck. Kind of like, how can you find her? How can you get a hold of her? That way, for whoever's watching, listening later.
If you're in Sarasota, look up Killik, our last name, Killik Kitchen. Again, we're big on branding in our family. If you go to Killiks Kitchen on Instagram or Facebook in the Sarasota area, just look her up. You can contact her through there. and she makes great Hawaiian-inspired food. So that's when. So after 2 years of us living together, she went with her mom, who's a traveling nurse. They went to Hawaii because it's Hawaii basically. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ,
who's
you know what I
gonna
mean?
pass that up?
Who the fuck's gonna pass that up? And she lived. Her and Bentley and her mom lived for 5 years in Hawaii, and that's when she fell in love with. So she was like me. She became a teacher, and then got back into the food industry. You know, so yeah. So then she started her own business in Sarasota, Killiks Kitchen, and she makes wonderful food. She's probably my favorite chef.
Hmm.
When I go down there, she's like, "Where do you want to eat?" And I'm like, "I want to eat your food."
I want to
You
have
know?
real food.
Yeah. No, she's a much better chef than I am. Much better. And so when I when they left for Hawaii, I was in Florida, and I thought, well, what do you what do you want to do? You know, again, I can go anywhere, I can do anything. So I'm on a disability retirement from teaching. It's not a ton of money, but it's enough to meet my basic, my basic needs. So I call up. I went to the beach a lot. I rode my bicycle a lot, and I thought, what do you love to do? And the thought that popped in my head, I love playing music in my family band with my cousins. Rocket. I didn't name the band. All right. I didn't name the band, so I don't want to hear any letters about that or anything. But so I called my cousin Mick Zofkin up. It's his band. He's the leader of the band. And I said, "You want to put the band back together?" And he said, "Yep." I go, "Give me 2 weeks." So again, anything I couldn't fit in my Dodge Charger, I got rid of. And I drove back home to Cleveland. I stopped at my buddy Devin Lewis's house. He lived in the Carolinas. And I drove back home to Cleveland, and we started the band again, and I had to get a part-time job, as I call the straight job, non-restaurant job, because I was just living too fast for my retirement. And so when I was in college getting my undergrad, I was working at a restaurant called Kika in Cleveland. It's where the Flying Fig is. It was where the Flying Fig is now, with a great lady called Susan Walters. She's opening a new restaurant now called Cha that should be opening up soon in Cleveland. And I met a guy there called Eric Williams, who now is he owns Momocho and El Carnicero. Momocho's in Cleveland on Fulton, El Carnicero's in Lakewood. But he was just the executive chef there. And my cousin and I hung out at Kika. We hung out there because we were living together. And Eric and I became friends. We used to go to strip clubs together, all that good stuff back in the 90s. And one day he says, "Do you want to be expo for me in the kitchen?" And I said, "Sure. What's an expo?" I had no idea, but I'm I'm game. I'm down for a new experience. And he explained to me that so in a restaurant, you have your line cooks, your chefs, you have your servers. So when the food comes up, the expo is the guy, he's the expediter. He takes the food and organizes it for the servers and tells the servers what goes out.
Huh.
Now, again, I had no experience in this, but luckily I'm teachable. That's one of the, I always try and be humble. One of the definitions of being humble, I've heard, is to remain teachable, So that started my restaurant career, just by Eric asking me, "Do you want to be an expo?" And I agreed. I didn't ask how much I was getting paid. I didn't ask what an expo was. I just said, sure. He was my buddy. And so that started that. So on my way through college, I was an expo at Kika on the weekends. I was custodian during the week, went to school during the week, and I was expo on the weekends, and it was great. So then fast forward, became a teacher, had a stroke, professional grandfather. I'm back in Cleveland, and it was National Margarita Day, I remember. And Eric had put out a blast about they were filming, one of the TV stations was filming a commercial for National Margarita Day at Momocho, and he wanted people to come in and look like the audience,
Hey, if it cuts off, just click start again.
Sure. And I'm like, sure, he's my dude. At bare minimum, maybe I'll get a free meal out of it, right? So I go there, they're filming, and Mike Smith, who was the bartender at manager at the time, he was there. And I was complaining to Eric about, this is what, 8-9 years ago, I think. And I was complaining to Eric about how I had to take a straight job at Volunteers of America, of all places. Because now, as you see, I have a shit ton of tattoos by now. And I was like, well, who's going to hire me? You know, I'm older. You know, I have to look like this at people. Who's going to, what straight? I'm like, Volunteers of America will hire fucking anybody. And actually, the application to join Volunteers of America was 10 times longer than my application to be a teacher. Go figure that.
What?
You know?
Really?
Yeah, dude, it was way more extensive, which is funny as shit, which actually probably says a lot if I think about it. And so we're there filming, you know, they're filming, I'm eating my free meal, having a free margarita, and I told Eric I had to get a fucking straight job. Well, he walks away, and then they're filming. You know, I'm watching Mike Smith do his thing because he's one charming guy. And Eric comes back to me and he goes, hey, you want to help me open a restaurant? And again, I say, sure.
Hell, why not?
I didn't ask how much I was getting paid. I didn't ask what I was doing, which seems to be a theme with me and Eric Williams. And he says, okay, I'll text you, you know. That was it. I didn't think anything about it, you know. Until like a month, 2 months later, I get a text from him, and he says, it's go time. I get it. It was like Mission Impossible shit, right? I get a text that says, it's go time. I get an address, 16918 Lakewood, and a time and a date. I pull up. It's the old shit. What was the name of that? What was the name of that fucking bar? Dang, it's been a minute. I'm getting older. Boy, it was old. Anyway, it had been a grocery store at one time, and then it was not Murphy's, an old Irish place. Oh, I can see it in my head. And so I show up there. Eric was there. I was there. And this place was beat the fuck up, man. It was like, you could just smell the old beer, cigarettes, and crushed dreams in this place. That's how bad it was.
Oh no.
But the bones were strong in the restaurant, and it was gorgeous, you know, underneath it all. And so that was day one, right? And we had a lot of people help us, but it was basically him and I, and it took us 88 days to build it out. You know, now you know those big long dumpsters, the big ones. We pulled out 3 dumpsters of crap from that place, and I ended up moving into the apartment building behind it. We worked almost every day, and then we have a meeting at the end of every day. We'd sit down and just make a list of what would have to be done next. It was awesome. It was awesome to have, you know, from going from college to being a teacher. It was nice to have a purpose again. You know what I mean? Like, this was my mission to constantly just have a goal. I'm very goal driven. So it was nice to have a goal to work on the restaurant. And again, it was the ultimate on the job training, you know. You know, a master's plus 30 in education and curriculum design doesn't prepare you a fuck for opening a restaurant. You know what I mean? One time we were Eric was out of town in New York, and his handyman was there and his assistant, and we were pouring concrete in the basement. And I'd literally watched a video on how to do it the night before. And I was with his assistant, and I was taking this 2x4 to flatten out the concrete. And the assistant goes, wow, you're pretty good at this. How long have you been doing this? And I look at my watch and I go, 35 minutes. And it was great. I mean, Eric and I were really in tune. It was really a beautiful time. You know what I mean? We got it done. I learned a lot from him, during those first couple of years. Uh, I mean, we were just focused, and that was my main gig. Like he had Momoto to run as well. And again, I now that I'm a business owner, I have a more appreciation for what he was doing.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, but building that out was again a huge education for me. And again, it was nice to have a purpose again. But as far as I took so many fucking staples and tacks out of those walls, it was incredible. You know what I mean? Like I think the foundation lifted up just from the lead I took out of the walls and from posters they had up there.
How long did it take you to do all that work?
It took us exactly 88 days. He had a goal of 90 days, but I'm talking, Easter Sunday I was in there. I mean, we were devoted, and it was good to be hardcore again. And again, that's another thing I learned from Eric was that single-mindedness of purpose. He said 90 days, and so at the end of every day, I give him the count, even after day one. We walked out of the building after day one, and I said 89 days left. And I gave him the count every day, so we stayed on top of it. There was no half-assing anything. And even though he pisses me off, that's the one thing I did learn from him, that single-mindedness of purpose, that we stayed on task. Like I see people open restaurants now. I see them opening one and I go by and then there's nobody working on it. Oh, we're opening in 2 weeks and there's nobody there today. What are you fucking kidding me? Like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And I met a lot of great craftsmen. Like when people are like, this is back, this is 8 years ago, and people are complaining there's no work out there. And I go, probably because you suck, because the people that we worked with are all fucking A+ people, and they have more work than they can do. And I learned, and a guy named Brian Jasko, he was the main handyman on the project. I was doing woodworking shit. And again, I'm a fucking teacher. I can teach you about the rock cycle, planetary motion, and all of a sudden I'm learning how to put trim on a fucking wall. And luckily I'm a quick study. And I learned that if you use finishing caulk, you can hide a lot of mistakes,
I'm just thinking about that for just a moment, like going from being a teacher and now you're working restaurants, building restaurants, and
right,
just being a real student of life, man.
Right. So at that point, I already had a full life, and at that point, I'd already survived, 3 marriages and and a stroke, and so you think that, and that's enough for a book right there, or a TV movie, and so we had a bunch of great years there, and from that, then all of a sudden I became the guy to help open restaurants. We opened 2 Jack Flaps. One of Eric's chefs wanted to do a breakfast place, so we opened 2 of the Jack Flaps restaurants, and I helped out on those. And then Happy Dog wanted to open Happy Dog Euclid Tavern, the Great Euclid Tavern in Uptown Cleveland, and I got to be the lead on that. So what we do is I would take the prep crew. I would do my morning work at El Carnicero, and then I'd take the prep crew in the morning, and then we would drive over there and work on the Eco Tavern at night. And we did that 7 days a week,
Man, you had to be a busy guy.
It was. But again, I'm goal driven. So when I have a purpose like that, it just you know, and we would drive over there, and because I was older than everybody else, I would lay down like on the sawdust floor for half an hour, take a rest, and then get back up. And my girlfriend at the time, Julie Trapp, she was a restaurant person as well. That was our date night. We go over and work on the restaurant on the weekends, Sundays, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's what I love to do, so none of it seemed odd at all, you know. Uh, yeah, crazy stuff. And so and then I helped with the when Happy Dog did their they did a restoration of the Gordon Square. I helped out with that as well. So again, so from being high school Ignatius to college to being a teacher, and now I'm opening restaurants with a badass chef from Cleveland, James Beard nominated, and it's just again just going with the flow. You know what I mean? That's just what I did. I didn't, and I'm so in the moment that it just seems like, well, this I've been doing this forever, you know. And it's funny because you know how I look, right? But you can't see on the podcast. Like I said, I'm 300 pounds. I shave my head now. I'm heavily tattooed, and I'm walking around the restaurant. But I literally have more education than any two people in the room, you know. And so I'll always keep you guessing. That's for sure, you know.
Well, that just goes into show like never judge a book by its cover because you never know exactly. A lot of
Right,
people are
right.
probably sitting at home watching this, probably thinking like, "Oh, he must be a biker or something."
No, exactly. Or they're a bunch of fucking prejudiced assholes. But you never know. And so I thought I was going to write out that restaurant gig, you know, until I die. But then actually, it was when we were opening up Jack Flapp's Luncheonette downtown, you know, and I was driving. I was driving from downtown to Lakewood, so I was on 90, and my my dad's wife calls me on his phone, and I pick up the phone and I go, "Hey, Dad," and she answers, and I go, "Oh shit," you know, he had just had a heart attack. He was in Fairview Hospital. They had put 2 stents in his heart, and so I raced to the hospital, and he was weak. He had a stroke himself a couple of months before. He was 74, and so we got him out of the hospital, got his meds together, and I know this because it was Sunday. We got him home. I got him his meds, and so I felt good. You know, I've helped him out. My dad's safe. You know, and on a side note, he was really happy that after all the stuff I went through, because when I had my stroke, he was really the only one that helped me through all that. You know,
Yeah.
he made sure I had food, took me to my doctor's appointments, and no government agency wanted to help me after my stroke, you know, because I was college educated, middle class. There's nobody that wanted to help me. Even the VA didn't want to help me back then.
Wow.
Because I went from, and this is back in the 90s, I went from making, you know, basically my income was cut in less than half overnight. And so there's no government agency that helps you with that. And then the state said I wasn't disabled enough to help, you
What?
know? Yeah, I wasn't blind enough because they had no way to measure when your eyes bounce like this, you know? And so, yeah, so there's that. Let me get off that soapbox for a second. But my dad was there and he helped me out. So it was nice that I could help him out. And they put a balloon in his heart to help it beat. And then they took it out, and then I got him home. And then that was on a Sunday. His heart attack was on a Wednesday. Then on Sunday, I got him home. And then on Sunday night, I'm closing down the restaurant, and then I feel it. It feels like in my right arm, it feels like somebody's driving one of those big railroad stakes into it. And then I feel like an elephant's crushing my chest, and then I'm sweating profusely. And then I asked the lady I was living with, look up, heart attack symptoms. And she says, oh, it says here it's your left arm. And so I'm like, well, it's not that then. And I used to smoke cigarettes back then, a lot of cigarettes. And I'd already been drinking. So I'm like, well, if I go to the hospital, they're going to say it's one of those things. And I'm like, I'm sure it's just stress. So whatever. So I go in and I close down the restaurant because I live right behind it. During a heart attack, I tell the bartender, Katie, who's a beautiful woman, I tell her, this is just weird, and now all this is happening while I'm doing this. You know what I mean?
You just kind of just going on with the flow.
Yeah. I'm like, Katie, something feels weird. And she's like, here, do a shot. I'm like, okay, and
Lord.
oh, this is a cautionary tale, people. I don't suggest you do any of this. Go to the fucking hospital. This is happening to you, all right? And so then I I go back home. I drink half a fifth of cheap tequila, like the worst tequila. Like I don't think they even make it anymore because of regulations. And I drink half a fifth, and I pass out. Well, and the miracle is I woke up. You know what I mean? There's no reason I should have woken up. And I feel weird. Of course. So I just had a fucking heart attack, right? And
But wait, you didn't go to the hospital at all? You just went with the flow, you just passed out afterwards?
I just passed out. I had the fifth next to me. I take a pinch of salt, throw it in my mouth. I would take a shot, and then I chew on this lemon.
No.
Again, can you run across the screen? Cautionary tale. Do not do this.
Don't do this.
Go to the fucking hospital. And
Caution.
The caution, right? Do not try this at home. That's all I need is some motherfucker to say, I did what Killik did. No, do not do this.
Start playing the jackass music.
No, right. Right. Show that warning they do with this.
Don't do this.
Do not fucking do this. And so again, the miracle is I woke up. And I'm like, all right, that was weird. I don't feel good at all. But because I'm hardcore, I go back in. I get the restaurant ready for the next day, right? I get the restaurant cleaned up, ready to go. I call Eric Williams up, and I'm like, hey, man, something weird happened last night. I'm going to go to the VA and have it checked out. And he's like, oh, it's probably just stress from your dad. I'm like, I know, but I'm gonna go have it checked out. So I get the restaurant ready. I drive over to the east side, Wade Park from Lakewood. And then as I'm sitting in the waiting room, I call him back and I go, hey man, I think I forgot toilet paper in bathroom number 2, And then they're like, Mr. Killik? And I go, yes. I go, hey, something weird happened last night. I had this pain here and this chest compressions. Well, they take me right in, of course. They run an EKG, and I'm waiting for the usual talk. You need to eat better. Don't drink so much. Quit smoking. And I'm like, okay, just whatever, And they come back in. And they go, Mr. Killik, and God love the people at the VA. They're wonderful. They deal with knuckleheads like me every day, And I'm one of the nice ones, And they come back in, Mr. Killik, you had a heart attack last night. And it was like record scratch. I'm like, hold the fucking phone, And they're like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. You know what I mean? This is, I did not expect this to be in the story today, And so everything just moves. It just got weird all of a sudden. Surreal is a better word. Things got surreal. And they came and they take me in. and they have to put a stent in my heart now. Now I just know about this because my dad had two put in. So they take me into the emergency room. Now, when they put a stent in, they have to go into the artery in your leg, right? That's the quickest way to your heart. So they give you a little shot of something to get you high so you don't panic. And so they had to shave me down there on the one side, and they shaved me on the other side. So I have like this landing strip in my nether region, right? Which does not look good on me. You know what I mean? I'm not a sexy man with a landing strip in my pubes. I'm naked as a jaybird with nothing but a washcloth over my junk. It was cold, by the way, people. And
Right,
I'm
right,
there.
right. Sure, sure.
Thank you. Please put an advisor. I get another warning. It was cold. There's shrinkage going on.
Sure,
And,
sure.
and then they put the paddles on you in case you go into cardiac arrest, right? And now I'm high. I'm pretty high because they have the best drugs in the hospital, And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, well, man, and you see your beating heart on the screen. And you see them with tools in your fucking heart, and you're pretty high and you're naked on this table. And there's paddles on you in case they have to shock you back to life, right?
You're like, is this really
Tell me,
happening?
man. Right. And tell me that doesn't give you a different perspective on things. And I'm like, well, man, you've cheated death once with your stroke, because every time I have to see my neurologist for my teacher's retirement, I have to see him every 2 years. Every time I see him, he says, you should be dead. And I'm like, well, man, you danced with the devil once and you made it. Can you do it again? Or is this it? And I thought about it and I thought, well, my kids are taken care of. Everybody I know knows how I feel about them, So I'm like, if this is it, man, you've had a good run. You know what I mean? You've made some mistakes, but you've also tried to fix those mistakes. So I'm like, if this is it, man. What are you going to do? You live by the sword, you die by the sword, And it was one of those moments of clarity, as they say, if this is my time, this is it, And so I'm watching them. It's this little weird tool. And again, like they have the screen right in front of you. If it's not fucking weird enough, you know what I mean?
Like you're watching it all go on.
Yeah, it's this little tool that like zips in, and they're calling out these codes, that says what they're doing. And I'm thinking about it now, and again, it's fucking surreal, man.
Well, I'm thinking too, you're really like high on drugs, so you're really like
No, right.
in
You're
the
absolutely
clouds.
high.
That's just going on.
And well, and you're absolutely alone. You know what I mean? You're absolutely alone with your thoughts. And they're like, we're just gonna put these on you just in case. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know it was just in cases, And so, but they were successful, and they pull me out of there, and I'm in like the recovery room. Now they have to have somebody keep their hands on the incision in your leg, because if they don't, and you sit up or something, if that blows out, it's basically like turning on the faucet to your heart. All your blood will rush out of your body instantaneously. You know what I mean? Like it'll come gushing out. So now I'm still high, and now I have this nice male nurse with his hands on my crotch for an hour.
What?
Try making small talk about that. You know what I mean? There's really no. Now I'm glad there's shrinkage. You know what I mean? Because he's a nice guy. I don't want to talk to him about this. And the doctor comes in. He says, your main artery in your heart, they call it the Widowmaker, by the way, very appropriate, was 95% blocked. So I was 5% away from cashing in my check.
Wow.
No, right? And so he comes in with his team, and he knows the other people that own the Happy Dog, of all things, right? So he was like, we have mutual friends. They own the Happy Dog. I'm like, oh, uh, that's awesome. I'm not going to get up and say hi. This guy's holding my dick. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get up right now. And yeah, so that was the and of course, me being mouthy, he's like, well, no heavy lifting for 2 weeks. We have to take care of that. And I say, it's him and all of his interns and the guy holding my crotch. He says, no heavy lifting for 2 weeks. And I say, well, how am I going to go to the bathroom then? Not one, not one smile, not one smile out of anybody. And I go, wow, tough room like that. And he goes, any more questions? I go, nope, I'm good. And and he leaves. And so then the next day I'm fine to sit up, And so my dad calls me. And I'm in the hospital. I have tubes, things beeping out. And so I have my phone and I'm trying to shield it like, hey dad, what's up? I'm trying to sound like I just did not have a heart attack, whatever that voice is. And he's like, this is crazy. You're not going to believe this. I'm like, try me, and, his wife, Sandy, he goes, Sandy's in the hospital. She has pneumonia. I'm like, that's crazy, Dad, because I don't want him to be worried about me having a heart attack because he just had a heart attack. I'm like, who'd have thunk it? That's crazy, And so I get off the phone with him, and later on that day, now mind you, the only person that knows I've had a heart attack is Eric Williams, And I said, keep it quiet. I don't want my dad to find out and worry. And check the bathroom number 2 for toilet paper because I think I forgot it. And so later on that night, Sandy, his wife, calls me from the hospital, her hospital now, saying, can you go check on your dad? I can't get a hold of him. And I said, no, and here's why, So I tell her that I've had a heart attack, that she should call the Fairview Park non-emergency number. And so she does. And he had another heart attack. And he died that day, getting ready for bed. So he was not well enough to go home. I don't know why they sent him home, but it is what it is. He was 74. We all have to die. That's just the gig. We didn't have to take his keys away. He wasn't twisted by age. At least he died on his feet, And and all this happened within a week, mind you, Like I say, it's probably the most intense week since my first week of basic training, So, yeah, so then I get out of the hospital, and not only did all this happen, I have to help out arranging the funeral, go to the funeral, and then get back to work. Now Eric said I could take time off, but I'm like, am I supposed to sit back at home and do nothing? So I thought, well, I have a stent in my heart now. I'm good to go, right? Not so much. I'd go into work. So for the first couple of weeks, I would only work an hour or two, and then I'd be exhausted. Then I'd go back home and lay down and come back in and do another hour or so. And it took me about 6 months before I could work again. But I didn't know what else to do. You know what I mean? I just survived a heart attack. My dad just died. And it was my normalcy. It was my comfort to go into work.
And I was thinking too, like at the same time, you're dealing with all this stuff's on your mind. You're learning how to adjust to, what's going on inside you. You just lost your father. And at the same time, you can't work at the same pace that you want to because you're learning how to function now.
Right. I tell people, for a restaurant to open, there are hundreds of things that have to go right every day, And my job, my title was like building manager, but like Eric always said, I was like the ball boy in tennis. When a ball hits the net, that's a problem. The ball boy runs out, grabs it, and then disappears. You know, that was my job. Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
So I was like the wolf in that. I know where all the bodies are buried. I come in, I fix the problem. Nobody sees me. Nobody knows what happens, and then I leave. You know, and so for a restaurant to open every day, I make sure I made sure everything was running smoothly. I was the goalkeeper for Eric. I took care of as many problems I can so they didn't get on his plate because he was the most important person there. And anything that I could keep off his plate, that was my job to do. I talked to every employee every day. I was the marriage counselor, the psychologist. I would lend money if they needed money for cigarettes because like David Chang said it best, the kitchen staff, while how do you say it? While on the outside world, they could barely take care of themselves. Inside the kitchen, they were highly skilled assassins. And so I was there to make sure that they were, again, it was just like being a middle school teacher. Same rules apply. Did you eat today? Are those clean clothes? Don't put your tongue on that. At the same thing, I had to make sure that they had what they needed to be successful, to keep the machine running. Again, another thing from Eric Williams, I use it in my business today. Make sure your backups have backups. The machine must always keep running. Don't be cheap and not buy, like I use those big immersion blenders. Like how you make a smoothie.
Yep.
Well, I have immersion blenders that are fucking 50 times bigger than that we blend with. Eric uses them too. And so if you have one, then you have a backup. And then you have a backup for that backup, because why be cheap and not spend extra $500 if it's going to cost you, if the machine's going to break down, if your whole thing is going to stop because you're too cheap to spend $500 on a piece of equipment. And I think that's an important lesson for small business.
Right.
It's worth spending the money for something like that to keep the machine running, because when your distributor gives you an order for fucking 1,100 cases of hot sauce and it's your first big order, they don't give a fuck why it's not done. All they know is it's not done. So always have backups for your backups. So after that, man, this is a long story. So after that, it took me about 6 months before I felt 100%. But then I had to make some changes. The VA said your sodium intake is fucking phenomenal. It's off the charts. I talked to a dietitian and she's like, there's not even numbers describing how much sodium you take in. Like I told you, when I was drinking that tequila, I literally had a ramekin, that I would just put salt in my mouth. It was insane.
I'm still thinking about, man, you're having a heart attack and you're taking shots.
Right. Again, cautionary tale, motherfuckers, And so I had to go through and I started looking at how much salt I was taking. It's not even the salt you put on your food. It's the salt that's in food, Like I fucking love Hamburger Helper. Who doesn't?
Hamburger
Loaded
Helper.
with sodium, And then I started looking at hot sauce. Jesus. Frank's is 8%. Frank's wing sauce, 19% sodium. Like imagine 1/5 of that bottle is just sodium. Now most people know salt as, we use salt. We use acid, fat, salt. Those are three big things we use that make food taste better. Like fat is not bad. It adds flavor. And so does salt. Salt's gotten a bad rap because people put it in everything to make it taste better. Used right, salt is a good thing. And so I started looking at different but there's salt in everything, and it's not needed. So I started looking around, and I found this. I started looking into fermentation, and so Shushin, he's the owner of Shinji Xijni, I think it is, a great ramen place on Lorraine in Ohio City. Great ramen place. He was fermenting stuff, and he had been talking to me about it. But he ferments the really, really hot stuff, and he was teaching me about it, and he was like, "See, it has that great funk to it." And so then I found this recipe. I think it was in Food and Wine. It was this for fermented Fresno vinegar, right? It was bright red, and I was like, "Huh," And even from an aesthetic perspective, it looked wonderful. So, and so I tried it out, and I totally fucked up the recipe. I mean, totally fucked it up. I added stuff that shouldn't have been in there, and then I fucked up how to finish it. And I wasn't wearing glasses back then to read because I was vain, and because I worked with great chefs, I wrote down what I did, and actually the first batch for me. And he wrote down what I told him to do, which was wrong from the recipe, but this great hot sauce Delta came out of it, and I gave it to Eric Williams a try, and he loved it, and he hated everything I made. And so I was like, wait a minute, this is different, So I started shopping it around to a bunch of the chefs. Oh, here's a good edit part. So people are going to see this as well. So people are going to see this as well as the audio.
Yeah.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me grab a bottle. I'm not going to waste an opportunity here.
Hey, if it cuts off again, just click start.
Yep. All right.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Also, I'm not wearing pants. Nobody needs to see that.
Is it cold over there?
Let's just keep the shrinkage theme going. So can you see that all right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
How's that? Is that better? Or is that worse?
That's worse. All right, bring it up just a little bit. And then bring it over just a little bit to the right.
I don't get a bunch of glare.
Yeah, it's like glaring off of it.
All right, let's try one more thing here. Take two.
Turn the bottle to the right.
I think that's as good as we're going to get.
There we go.
So I came up with this one. This is my Delta sauce. I call it Delta because it was the fourth recipe that I finally liked. It's just Fresno's, garlic, onions, vinegar, and salt. And that's one that Eric tried, and he said, I go, here, try this. I gave him a chip. He was like, God damn, that's delicious. He said it so quickly that I thought he was fucking bullshitting me, right? And and then he said, I have to take some home to Heather, his wife, who is a beautiful person and very patient. And then I almost started crying because I'm like, oh my God, he really fucking likes it. And again, he's a harsh critic. He's very blunt, especially when it comes about food. And I was like, holy fuck, you know, because I used to help make family meals for the staff too. That's where one of the chefs would make food for the whole staff, so they have something to eat every day. And man, did he complain about anything I made? You know what I mean? But he still ate it, the motherfucker. But he complained about it, and I'm like, he really likes this. So I shopped it around different chefs. Everybody was raving about it, and so I started thinking, all right, this is something different, you know. And then my second flavor is this is the green Ada. It's poblanos and jalapenos. It's a little bit tangier, a little bit tartar. And again, they're all just chilies, onions, garlic, kosher salt, and vinegar. And again, you see the labels, they're simple, basic. I'm trying to keep everything simple. Like Eric Williams, his mole sauce at Momocho El Carnicero that Nolan Cleary from Soho helped him design has over 40 ingredients and it's sublime. But I don't want to make anything with fucking 40 ingredients. You know what I mean? So my whole thing is about keeping it simple branding, simple ingredients. I just have 5 ingredients. And so my last one is the Zeta.
Oh man.
So the Zeta, all I do is I take this Delta, this motherfucker, and all we do is add fresh habaneros to make this one. So we just add one ingredient. It makes it hotter. There's some citrus notes to it. Simple, right? You know, keeping it simple. I'm not that smart. You know what I mean? That way it's hard for me to fuck it up. So when I had these 3 done, and the main thing is that when I could reproduce it a couple times, because that's important. When I knew it just wasn't a fluke. Then I started looking for, well, where's a kitchen I could do this at? You know, because I can't do it at the restaurant. And I started asking people, who's the guy I talked to about production? And the same name came up, Zach Reinberger. He used to work for Cleveland Central Kitchen, or it's called Cleveland Culinary Launch. Now he owns Ohio City Pasta now. And the same name came up. And so I started following him online, and they had an open house. It's at 2800 Euclid. And I went there, and he answered the door. And I go, Michael Killik. He goes, I'm Zach Reinberger. And I said, you're the motherfucker I've been looking for. and we've been friends ever since. You know what I mean? He's an awesome guy. He consults for the company. He's one of my trusted advisors. He knows more about food production than I think any 3 people know. He's a genius at it, you know. And they say the older you get, the harder it is to make true friends. And I'm lucky enough to count him as one of my true friends, you know. And he loves 70s classic rock like I do. So I'll always text him. I'll test his trivia about it late at night when I'm feeling randy. So from there, I started working. So Cleveland Central Kitchen is a place where you can. I went through their incubator class to learn about being an entrepreneur. And so then I went from 5-gallon pickle buckets to a 155-gallon drum. The first one I made was 100 pounds of Fresno chilies, 50 pounds of onions, and they're like, oh, we have knives. So I fucking didn't bring my own knives like an idiot. It was a dull knife. Only the last third was sharp. The person they said was going to help me didn't show up. So I do the whole thing by myself. Now even though I worked at a restaurant, I didn't, my knife skills had gotten dull because that wasn't my job. I didn't have to cut a lot of veg anymore because I was in charge of taking care of the other stuff. But I did it. It took me all fucking day, but I did it all by myself. And I got to the point where I had to wrap masking tape around my fingers because they were blistering. But that was an important lesson. Did I want this enough to fucking do it myself? You know what I mean? It was a good baptism by fire, And I did. And I put everything there and I wrote everything down like this. This is my original book with all my notes in it. I'm not going to show you guys because you can fuck yourselves. This has all my secrets in it. But I have notes in there from day one of the company, and when I look through it, it shows me what I thought I knew and what I've learned and what I've evolved from. And that's important to see where you've came from, and again, I've learned a lot, and the people I thought knew what they were doing when I started, I now think are idiots, it's just, it's been a hell of a ride. I've been a professional company in April. And that's when Father Murphy started touching me.
But
I've got, by looking in that book, I've got to see my evolution from a teacher into a restaurant person, and finally, in the past 6 months, I've really evolved into a businessman and a business owner. Which even as far as 3 years ago, I said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm not going to be a businessman. I'm a restaurant person. I'm on the pirate ship." I've always said the restaurant industry is a pirate ship, and I loved it. I still love it, but now I have my own pirate ship, and I'm getting my own team together of beautiful knuckleheads, and now I'm finding diamonds in the rough. I'm finding people who are underappreciated at their current jobs, and I tell them, well, tell me what title you want, give me your job description, and I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you, and go work. And they work like crazy for me just because of that. I trust them, And as a teacher, I watch them and I assess them and I see what can I do to help them be successful. And I tell them, this is not your last job working for me. So I'm here to make you better for your next gig. And they respect that. And I tell them the truth. And I said, I expect you to tell me the truth. I expect to hear bad news quicker than I want to hear good news. I don't need yes men. You know what I mean? Because now that the company's getting bigger and I'm getting more clout, there are plenty of people kissing my ass, And sure, that's nice. It's nice to hear great stuff, but that's not what's important to me, I need people that will tell me the truth, Especially now. So we're in all the giant eagles now in Ohio. I picked up a new distributor, Zidian, out of Youngstown. They're going to put me in the rest of the giant eagles in Pennsylvania and New York. Cisco's taking us national. Whenever they process the 17 pages of paperwork I had to fill out. But so we'll have a national distributor here soon. No, they say small business grows like a hockey stick. It's slow and then it takes off, and we're right here right now. And it's growing exponentially at this point.
And just kind of like give us a feel of what it, like somebody being in your shoes right now. How does it feel just going from teaching, opening restaurants, and now having your own company that is taking off? How does it feel?
How does it feel? It feels like
does it have like a real feeling to it? Are you in a dream state? What's going on?
Well, the good thing, like, there's two different feelings. As opposed to being a teacher, the feeling is that I can start helping people now. Like not every company that came before me was helpful. You know, some were flat out dicks. And I won't name them, even though I want to. I won't name them. Some companies were great to me. Clark Pope from Pope's Cocktails and Pope Bloody Mary Mix. He's a mentor of mine. Our stuff is right next to each other in the warehouse. He has been a prince to me, giving me pointers. Garden of Flavor, Lisa and Clay have been wonderful to me as far as giving me pointers of what to expect from different distributors and people. The Cleveland Kraut Boys, again, wonderful. They recommended me for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which I got accepted to. That teaches you how to be a businessman. I'm doing that in the fall. So I said that I was going to help every company that comes after me, that wants my help, and so I do. So I pass out my cards. I try and take time out to talk to everybody that comes after me, and I do. You know what I mean? I'll say, here's what I've learned so far, because I always tell them the only people that will tell us the truth are other small businesses, because everybody else just wants free stuff or to take our money. I get more requests of, I'm a hot sauce connoisseur. Send me your sampler pack and I'll go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna send you shit, I don't care how many fucking followers you are, you fucking Instagram influencer bullshit. You know what I mean? But I'll try and talk to every company and try and give them advice, my opinion, and it's just my fucking opinion. I do things differently, but I try and tell the truth. I do guerrilla marketing. I try and do stuff that nobody else is doing because that's what I want to do. I'm trying to show that you can be yourself. You don't have to compromise your principles or who you are. You don't have to fucking sell out to be successful.
Say that again.
So you can be yourself. You can do what you want. You can do what your heart tells you to do. You can make money and you don't have to sell out. When I pitched to Market District and Cisco, this is 2 years ago, right before COVID happened, like a month before the quarantine. I pitched with a bunch of other great products, and they all went in there with their note cards about how much they sold. They were trying to give the buyers what they thought the buyers wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went in there. I didn't know any of that shit. I went in there like Dave Chappelle, basically. I said, motherfucker, more. Actually, nobody else swore. I went in there like, I'm Michael Killik and you're not. I don't need you, but this is why you should take me on. I went in there like a hand grenade, pretty much. Calm like a bomb, if we're going to quote Rage Against the Machine. And you know what? I killed it. Zach Reinberger, who was there, who worked for the kitchen at the time, he said it was the best pitch he'd ever seen because I wasn't kissing their ass. I was saying, this is me. This is my hot sauce. Take it or leave it. And they fucking loved it. In fact, somebody said, did you see Zach during your pitch? I go, no, because I was on stage talking to these people. He pulled his hat down because he was laughing so hard because I was just talking. So I was handing out my spec sheets, like, here's how the bottles are shaped. Here's what there's, because every space on the shelf is money. And so I handed out 2 to these guys from Cisco. And as I was passing out samples, some of the hot sauce splashed on one of them. And one of the owners of Central Kitchen says, do you have an extra one of these for this guy? I go, I do. I go, or they could share because that shit costs money. And they started laughing so hard, their mouths hit the ground. And again, just being myself. After all these years, I'm 55 now. After all these years, being myself is fucking paying off. And you know what? It feels wonderful. I I know I'm kind of in a unique position that I have nobody to answer to. And that's what makes me dangerous, is that I'm free. I'm absolutely free. And that's what makes me dangerous uh to everybody, but in a good way, you know what I mean? That's what makes me dangerous to the status quo, to those that want to keep us down and make us conform, is that I have nobody to answer to. I can say what I want and do what I want, market the way I want. Like when I first started this, they were like, "Why do you want a clear label? That's stupid." Where's the character of your big fucking head? You know what I mean? Uh, where's where's your catchy phrase? Go fuck yourself. I wanted a clear label so you can see what's in it. And because I'm not following the rules, because I'm going rogue, because I'm a renegade, and because I tell the truth. All right, I know that's crazy in marketing. I'm just telling the fucking truth.
Tell the truth.
I know, right? Right. I'm surprised there's not a fucking hit squad from the government outside my door right now. You better help yourself as well, right? We'll watch your door get kicked in. They'll shut this shit down. I just tell the truth, and it seems to be hitting a vein in people right now, especially the younger generation. Like I said, when I started this company, I tried to talk to the old white dudes, and I got old white dude answers. And I'm like, well, this is not going to work. So I made up my mind. I was going to talk to the younger generations and people that look like me. And I was going to get enough of us together that the old white dudes that run everything are going to have to listen to me. And you know what, man? It's working. Grocery store chains that even up to 6 months ago told people, don't bring Killik's name up again, all of a sudden now do not have a problem with me. And you know why? Because my stock is rising. I'm getting more clout because more people like you and people that look like me, the tattooed weirdos, the geeks, are buying it. And this is what talks to those people,
Mm-hmm.
So if I can lead the charge for everybody that wants to do their own thing, that believes in themselves, that want to do things differently, that think differently, that don't fall into that cookie cutter lifestyle, that want to believe what they believe. If I can be the one through the door first to lead the charge, to kick that door open for all of us, then it's my fucking honor. And you know what? That drives me. That's why I get up early. That's why, even though my fucking hip joints are fucking falling apart, and the VA won't fix them until they're really bad. Go figure that one out. I do it, and I do it with honor because I'm still a teacher at heart. You know what I mean? If I can inspire people like after me, like Killik did it, and he's fucking held together with fucking stints and fucking duct tape, then I can do it too. You know what I mean? That's what gets me going in the morning. That's why I work so hard. That's why I help every little company after me that look at, I did it and I'm a fucking knucklehead. You know what I mean? Yeah, that keeps me going. It is possible.
Just knowing your purpose and what you're here for, what you're about. That's what it's all about. Wakes you up, it gets you to jump out of bed.
Right. And I should have a sponsorship from Nas, because Jesus Christ. Excuse me. I chuck a can of this before I hit the road every day just to get my old ass moving,
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one I used to drink a lot of that stuff, man. Nos, mine was the grape flavor or cherry flavor.
There you go. I stick to the original orange. I'm a purist.
The citrus.
Right. And again, man, it's good to have a purpose again. You know what I mean? It just is. And to know that I can help people, that I can inspire people. I just met a great artist when I was in Mentor at a gig, Kat. She's doing some design. She's designing some art for me that I'm going to put on T-shirts and stickers. She's 18 years old. She's wonderful. and I'm paying her to do some stuff for me because I believe in what she's doing, and I think she just needs just a little push in the right direction. And by attaching my name to what she's doing, that's going to help her out, and it's my honor to do that. You know, I try and do that as much as I can. And of course, my accountant's like, "You can't afford to drop that kind of money," and I'm like, "Fuck if I can afford to do it." You know, that's what this is about. Yes, this is about making money because a company has to make money to survive, but it's not just about that. It's about helping people. It's about that. You have to make money. That's what a business is. That's rule number one. Because if you don't make money, you can't help people out. Where are we at on time, brother?
We are getting close.
So that's it. You know where the company's going. It's growing exponentially. But as far as so now it feels like up until I'd say even Valentine's Day, I had like imposter syndrome. Like fuck, Cleveland Kraut, Garden of Flavor. These people are talking to me like I'm a real fucking human being. Like I know what I'm doing. And they don't know I'm just some jackass who's faking it because I don't know what's going on. And then around yeah, and then around Valentine's Day, it kind of just clicked. Like I felt like I was given a key to the big boys' restroom. You know, like I felt like it's probably it probably was they probably were always talking to me like that, but it changed in me. Like no, I deserve a seat at this table. You know what I mean? I'm a successful company. And since then, again, like I have this quick theory about we're all spiritual radios, man. You know, like once we get rid of the ego and the selfishness, we can get tuned in and miracles happen every day, man. Like I get so much, there are no coincidences, man. You know, stuff happens every day. I have every day is an adventure for me. Every day. Like we could do a podcast every day about what happened to me the day before, and it would freak you out. You're like, we're gonna do a Netflix series on this motherfucker because
No, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, though, is,
right,
and that's what I try to preach to others that have been on the show is you got to drop your ego, man.
100%, man. Because that just cloud. It's like putting a filter on stuff that just clouds stuff out. I was doing a gig at uh, Cleveland Clinic with North Union Farmers Market. Great market, great market. And first of all, I got to meet Chantel Brown, the new congresswoman. She's awesome. She put up with my irreverence. Uh, and a half an hour later, two guys from Myers grocery store, they're putting one in next Cleveland Clinic, walk up to me, give me their cards. They say, "We want you in our grocery store."
Hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know.
Like, really?
But
Is this really
out of my
happening?
mouth, yeah, out of my mouth is like, that's cool, like that, you know.
You're just being humble. You're like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
thanks.
But again, like I said earlier, uh, a definition of being humble is to remain teachable, you know. And on my arm here, it says, "To thine own self be true," which means, you know, I can go out and talk my shit, sell the company, but when I look in the mirror, or as Public Enemy says, don't believe the hype. You know, I've seen more restaurants get torn down by chefs and owners believing their own bullshit. And at the end of the day, I come home and I play some guitar and I play my video games at night and I think, and I'm like, it's all in perspective. You know, when I see people are struggling, when I see somebody that has handicaps, I'm like, I've been blessed with a lot of great people and I've cheated death twice. And that keeps things in perspective. You know, my platform is getting bigger now, and I'm going to help as many people as I can, especially those who have been underrepresented in life.
And
That's
really,
good.
like, what
That's a
better
good
way?
mic drop moment, right? That's a good mic drop moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what better way to put it is just you're really waking up to just seeing the true blessings that are taking place in your everyday life. And
Right,
the stuff that
right,
has happened in your life that, I know a lot of people look back at it like, Man, I wish that never happened, but at the same time, when it did happen, it helped you out along the way, along your journey.
No, right. Right. Everything that I went through has made me the person I am today. And I've hurt people in the past when I was a knucklehead, and I've tried to make amends to those people. I believe when you make mistakes, if you try not to make those mistakes again, then I think you're forgiven. If you keep making those mistakes, then you're an idiot. People make mistakes. We're humans. That's the gig.
Mhm.
But the thing is, are you learning from your mistakes? And I believe that I have. And I'm like I said, I wasn't always a good man, but I believe I'm a good man now. And I'm trying to help people out with my company. Can I get a witness? There we go. Put your hands on the screen. There we go. There we go.
But as we begin to wrap this thing up, man, I just want to say thank you for being on and just telling your story like how it is.
I appreciate you, man. This is awesome. Thank you.
And if anybody is actually wondering, are you a biker at all? You have a bike.
So yeah, if anybody has a complaint, tell them to write it on $100 bill and send it to me, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up with just like 3 random questions.
Sure.
The first question: are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm a dog person.
Any reason why?
I always had my dad didn't like cats growing up, so we never had them. So my first dog, Princess, was honestly like my first child. I would have a dog now, but I'm too busy, and I wouldn't have a dog unless I had a yard. And I'd love to have a dog, just honestly, so I had somebody to talk to at night. And dogs are less hassle than a girlfriend right now, and I can't afford either at this point.
All right, second question. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where are you going?
Tokyo, Japan. It's on my bucket list.
What's the reason behind it?
Because it's fucking Tokyo, Japan. A high school buddy of mine is a translator there. He's from Ignatius too. And, I've been to Beijing, and Tokyo is just it's such a contrast of ancient culture and Mondo, Hello Kitty, neon. I want to eat at one of those restaurants, only has 6 seats, and the guy's been making one dish for 70 years. And then I want to go to a Mondo 10-story shopping center where I can hardly see with the neon. Just shit like that,
Respect. All right, for the final question, what should we expect from you in the future? What's coming?
In the future, national distribution's coming. I just talked to, so we'll be available in all the U.S. states. It's not like being in Walmart. It's the company Cisco, but European Imports is their specialty branch. So if you see this in other states, start asking about it in your stores. If they have European Imports, they can get a hold of them through Cisco. Everybody fucking knows Cisco. But I started talking to a pseudo government agency called European Imports. I'm sorry, they're called what the fuck? Import. They're called Import Expo. And what they do is they help U.S. companies export their stuff and talk to other countries. The Crop Boys and Clark Pope turned me onto this. So next year, I'm gonna start doing these big ass food shows in Vegas and other places. And I'm gonna start talking to exporting to other countries. So we're going to warp speed, Scotty, as they say. Shit's about to jump off. And I'm building my team around me now. I have a great lady I'm looking at for CEO named Jenny Kelly. I picked up an assistant. Her name is Sierra Mason. She's 24 and full of piss and vinegar, wants to change the world. I have a guy named Antonio Bizel, who is going to be in charge of regional sales. He's wonderful. I have a girl, Olivia. She's in charge of recipe design. I mean, they're all working by hourly for it because I can't afford to pay them full time, but they all believe in me enough to start working on stuff now. And she's making recipes that will be used in the future that we start putting on the website. And then we have Big Mike, who's going to be in charge of production. So I'm starting to build my team now of these all highly skilled assassins so I'm getting these people in place now, even though I can't afford them right now, so that when I can't afford them, the team is ready to go.
All right.
So yeah, so it's literally next year we'll be looking at the world.
So that you guys who are watching, listening right now, be ready. Is what he's saying.
Be ready.
Be ready.
Right.
All right. The final one. I added this one on. I know I said 3.
You're a fucking liar.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you somehow, how can they do that? How can they reach out to you?
They go to the website. It's Killik, HSC, KILLIK, HSC.com. It's basically short for KillikHotSauceCompany.com. You can order online there. Our new vinegar is out there too, our fermented vinegar. I have a bunch of swag through a company called Printify. I have a ton of shit on there. Some stuff is supposed to be funny, but you can still order it. It's a company where, because I would show you my apartment, but I don't want you guys to see all my weed. But instead of having it here and me shipping it to you, if you order it, this company prints it and sends it right to it. But there's a place there that you can send me an email. So KillikHSC.com. You can send me a message, question, comments, say fuck off. I don't care. I read everything because that's my job. And and this was fun. This is my first podcast. This is awesome. And yeah, thank you, man, for taking time out to talk to me. This is a lot of fun.
No problem.
All right, brother, man.
Thanks for coming out. And then everybody that's watching,
stay true to yourselves, everybody. Follow your dreams. Again, if a knucklehead like me can make it, so can you.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Peace.